I'm pleased to be joined by Krystyna Gadd, founder of How to Accelerate Learning. Welcome, Krystyna, to Learning Now TV.
Nice to see you, Kim.
You too. So I understand you've been writing a book. I would love to know more about it.
So it's called How Not to Waste Your Money on Training. I thought it should have a title which describes what it's actually meant to be about. And it's going to be helping people in learning development to dig deeper to find out what an organisation's needs are, rather than just sort of scratching the surface and just having those superficial conversations.
Okay.
There might be some data analysis in there a little bit as well.
Oh, intriguing. So what do you think a typical learning and development professional needs to do more of?
I think people are starting to have those conversations, those deeper conversations, instead of just somebody being caught on the corridor and somebody says to them, we need to do this by the end of the month or whatever, and then off they toddle and they do it.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it does. So I think people are starting to have those deeper conversations. What I think some people are a little bit scared of is the data bit. What do we collect? What do we analyse? How do we analyse it? What do we do? Now, my background is in engineering and I was a bit of a maths geek.
So you're very used to the data?
I'm used to it, but I'm
with
but I'm also used to the fact that other people aren't. And so what I want to share is some of my experiences and also practical tips, worksheets that people will be able to print off and do things with to actually be able to analyse that data in a very simple way and find the story that the data is telling them as well.
So the book will almost be a toolkit.
Yes.
Full of worksheets that someone can use practically and maybe photocopy over and over again so they can use it.
I'd love that.
Brilliant.
I'd love that, yeah.
So what would your top tips be that you're weaving throughout this book?
The key things, I think, are that we need to get, in L&D, we need to get closer to the organisational needs, not just what people are saying that they want and what they think they need. It's not that people are lying, it's just that people have got a perspective. And so if you only look at one perspective, you're just getting part of the picture. And I've had many instances where I've gone into organisations, been presented with a whole shopping list of things that they would like me to do, and I just get curious. Alarm bells start to ring, first of all, and I'm thinking, why do they need this and why these people, why now? And so I get curious, and curiosity is a really good skill to develop because it doesn't threaten people. If you say to somebody, I'm really curious as to why, could we just spend 10 minutes discussing this? That's not threatening.
You're not disagreeing with them.
No.
You are merely asking.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think in L&D also, people are worried about that courage to challenge, which we're all supposed to have, because it's almost like we should be challenging people. And how do you do that? And I find that curiosity is a great way to do that without actually disagreeing with them, as you said. So yeah, sort of digging deeper. And I think it's finding the story, not to be frightened of the data, finding the story, but collecting the right data as well.
How does somebody go about that? How can you identify the right kind of data?
Well, I'll give you an example because I think that's the easiest way to explain. And I did some work for an organisation who were developing some team leaders, and I was getting curious about why these team leaders, why now? And the CEO said, well, we had some training, the senior team, and we thought it'd be nice for the team leaders to have some training.
Nice.
And the word nice stuck in my head and it rang in my ears. And I was thinking, how do you measure nice and how nice it's going to be? And so I asked more questions, and I also asked him, so let's imagine 6 months' time, I have done all of this training that you've asked me to do and nothing's changed. Who are you going to blame? And he said, well, you. And I said, well, I need to know more. And we had more questions, more curiosity. And by the end of the conversation, he said to me, I think we need to do a needs analysis, Chris. And
which they thought they had already done, but they felt then now they needed to do a better, deeper one.
And I was glad that he said needs analysis and not just learning needs analysis, because, you know, when we talk about analysis in learning development, people immediately either say TNA or LNA. And I would prefer if we actually just did a needs analysis, we started to dig a little bit deeper.
Be open to other aspects of the business rather than just focusing on learning and development.
So in finding the right data to collect, what I did was I looked at some of the induction documentation, some of their brochures, to find out what their aspirations were as a company, because let's face it, not everybody's brochure lives up to what's actually necessarily happening. So I wanted to see what their aspirations were. Then I had a half day with the senior team, and we did a bit of brainstorming. We used metaphors to find out what the team was like, the team of team leaders was like, and they weren't actually a team, I found out, because they never met up as a team of team leaders. So I met with them, and we sort of got a list of the best to the worst of the team leaders. We knew who was at the top of the list, we knew who was at the bottom. And I didn't decide which data to collect all at once. I sort of went along and saw what happened, and sort of decided as I went along. And so when I spoke to the senior people, and I thought, I'm just a bit curious as to what they think, the team leaders. And so I devised a questionnaire then. So that was the thing that fed into the questionnaire, some of the things that I'd found out, what were the most important things to the senior team. And in the end, what I found was that list that they had, some of the team leaders who were at the bottom of the list appeared at the top of their own list. And so that raised more questions for me about why don't they know that they're not very good at what they do? Do they know they're not very good at what they do, and so they're just not being honest? And what's happening? And I also put a question in there about how much time they spent with their senior managers. And lo and behold, the ones that were at the bottom of the list of the senior managers weren't spending that much time with their team leaders as well. So what I did was I built into the program time meetings that the team leader would spend with their senior manager before they actually went to a workshop, just so that they would have that time, so that they would know, and they'd have a focus as well.
So your data is throwing up not only more questions, but the needs analysis that you speak of. So a lot about relationships and communication and time and effort, which is perhaps not what they were expecting.
Absolutely not. And I think that's the key thing, is that if you expect a needs analysis to be clear cut right from the start, you can have a plan, but I think what you need to do is have a flexible plan, because the data will throw something up. And when I say data, again, people might be cringing and worrying about what that data is. A number might, like somebody who's on the top of the list or the bottom of the list, that's easy to recognise.
It's information a lot of the time.
It's information a lot of the time, it is. And as the information throws things up, you then might have to change what you do, or a questionnaire that you do, you add an extra question in. Something is not quite right. And it's a little bit like being a detective as well. And being nosy, just something doesn't look right. Find out why it doesn't look right, why it doesn't feel right.
Well, your book sounds like it's going to be full of top tips and a lot of great guidance for any L&D professional looking to get deeper, as you say, and get closer to the business. I look forward to it. When can we expect it?
Soon. It's really spurred me on, this, as talking to you, to get it finished. I need to book a week out so I can finish it.
Excellent. Well, all the best, Krystyna. Thank you for talking to me today.
And thank you.